Bastard.
Bastard.
The bastard.
Bastard.
And you? What's your story, bastard?
The hero's journey has been a dominant theme in storytelling for centuries, whether it be in the powerful myths that gave rise to civilizations, or in the works of greats such as Homer, Dante, and Dickens, or even more recently, embodied in the captivating films and books of the last 100 years. This eternal theme never fails to compel us to embark on or continue our own heroic endeavor of self-discovery and individuation. There is one character whose journey I find especially intriguing and consider to be an almost ideal template for better understanding the subtle intricacies that constitute the difficult path of becoming a true hero. I say almost, as my analysis will solely be based on the show version of Jon Snow. And we all know how that ended. Later, I'll provide my short opinion on how Jon's arc should have been resolved. But until then, let's take a closer look at Snow's compelling journey from a lost boy to a fully integrated man.
Run to the litter. That one's yours, Snow.
At the beginning of the series, there isn't anything particularly special about Jon. He's grouped with several other characters whose arcs are shown to be either equally or more significant than his. Nothing but a few subtle allusions can lead us to believe that the young Snow will eventually play the central role in the story's main plotlines and their resolutions. He's a bastard after all, unwanted, unimportant, and unaccepted.
Lady Stark thought it might insult the royal family to seat a bastard in their midst.
This unfortunate reality is something Jon must eventually learn to accept if he wishes to fulfill the deepest desires of his heart. But what exactly are these hidden yearnings that linger within Jon's unconscious self? Well, to put it plainly, though it might sound a bit sentimental, like all of us, Jon longs for love and acceptance. First and foremost from those closest to him, but also from society as a whole. He wants to feel seen and recognized, and to experience that he matters to others. These inner desires manifest themselves distinctly in each individual, depending on a wide range of variables that are usually heavily influenced by the family and culture in which they were raised. We see this quite clearly depicted in Jon's case. The irrational contempt and aversion that the people of the North, and Westeros in general, have for bastards means that Jon must, to no fault of his own, carry a large burden that cripples his ability to form a healthy and functioning identity. And so he desperately wants and tries to prove his worth and buy others' love by attempting to be the best swordsman, archer, warrior, or hero, thinking that if he were just good enough, he would finally earn the respect from those who see him as a lesser man. As a result, Jon forms his entire identity around trying to fulfill the almost insatiable demands of an irrational and troubled society. He is not his true, healthy, authentic self, but a false persona molded by unrealistic norms in a hopeless attempt to fit in.
I was jealous of Rob my whole life. The way my father looked at him, I wanted that.
Symbolically speaking, much like Jon, we're all bastards. Though some have it harder than others, each of us is caught in the seemingly endless battle between discovering and living as our true selves and satisfying the unhealthy conscious and unconscious demands our parents and others have burdened us with. Our undeveloped minds as children are unable to process and cope with the many unjust and devastating afflictions to our core selves or identity, resulting in the formation of a separate, false, inauthentic self that serves as a mask, a defense against any additional attack on who we truly are. As long as this false self dominates and controls our lives, taking the place of our true self, we are overwhelmed with egotism, anxiety, lack of meaning, irrational fear, and many other mental illnesses and neuroses. Most people never even begin the arduous journey of rediscovering their lost, true self, remaining in a lifelong state of psychological, emotional, and spiritual infantilism and immaturity, with the false persona playing the part of a grown adult only to satisfy what society requires of them.
I thought being king meant I could do whatever I wanted.
In today's age, it has become common for men and women to fail to even fulfill this basic requirement of feigned adulthood, avoiding any semblance of responsibility and active participation in everyday life. This worrying epidemic will have terrible consequences in the near future, and is another reason why characters such as Jon Snow are needed more than ever. Jon is determined to become the man he's meant to be. He wants to be like his father, an honorable man, a good man, a Stark.
Farewell, Snow.
And you, Stark.
All my life, I wanted to be Jon Stark.
Maybe then he would be respected for a change. Others would notice his worth, see that he's more than just a bastard. Jon is convinced that all of his problems would be solved if only this fantasy of his were fulfilled.
I daydreamed that my father would ask the king. And just like that, I would never be the bastard of Winterfell again.
Hopes and dreams aren't bad per se, but they obstinately ignore the difficult yet beneficial path that leads to their fulfillment. The journey along the narrow road often leads the hero who has ventured upon it to transform into someone new, no longer carrying the same wishes and desires that led them to embark in the first place. This is precisely what happens to Jon, as we'll slowly see.
Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you.
Disillusioned with his bleak future and lack of opportunity in Winterfell, he decides to join the Night's Watch, hoping to prove himself a worthy warrior by defending the realm from evil that lies north of the Wall. His decision is mocked, especially by the visiting Lannisters, who couldn't care less for higher ideals. But there is much needed truth in what they cynically preach to Jon.
Realize we're nothing but sacks of meat, blood, and some bone to keep it all standing.
The young bastard still hasn't experienced the full brutality of life. He is caught up in romantic fantasies of heroism and honor that are almost begging to be shattered by his choice to take the black.
Everybody knew what this place was, and no one told me. No one but you.
Tyrion accompanies him, and though he continues to poke fun at Jon and his delusions, the dwarf has a soft spot for the marginalized, offering the bastard crucial advice. Acceptance of himself and reality as a whole, a necessary initial step of authentic transformation to true manhood. Throughout the first season at the Wall, Jon struggles to achieve this to the slightest degree. Even the smallest injustices rattle him, convinced that he is entitled to certain actions or privileges because of his capabilities or the tragedies that he has experienced.
They hate me because I'm better than they are.
You're no ranger, Jon.
But I'm better than every other.
Better than no one.
I'm a better swordsman and rider than any of you. It's not fair.
This behavior is a result of his still firm hold on his expectations and dreams. One by one, they begin to fall, opening Jon up to the seemingly arbitrary injustice of life and the not-so-idealistic Night's Watch. A bitter pill to swallow, but for Jon, a necessary one if he is to venture beyond the Wall into the unknown.
I always wanted to be a ranger.
I always wanted to be a wizard.
Here's where things get particularly interesting, at least from a psychological and symbolic perspective. Earlier, I mentioned that Jon's identity was shaped by the norms, cultural customs, and demands imposed on him by his family and society during his upbringing. Some of his identity was well formed, thanks in large part to his father, Ned, but most of it was, unfortunately, pieced together from many unavoidable, harmful external sources. Metaphorically speaking, his current identity can be represented by everything south of the Wall, the known world. As long as he remains within the deceptive safety of these borders, the status quo remains intact, his flawed identity untouched. And there might be nothing wrong with staying in the zone of uncomfortable comfort. Most of us never muster the courage, or it might just be willful ignorance, to journey north, beyond the borders and security of the familiar, into the realm of chaos and potential, into the unknown, where only God knows what one might find and bring back from their journey. Is this adventure at the edge of the world in search of a new identity that forms one of the central points of the hero's journey? The hero must willingly venture into this hellishly frightful chaos and somehow bring order to it if he wishes to return as a new man. This must mostly be understood as a journey inward, into the dark recesses of our unconscious selves, where a whole host of repressed elements of our complex psyche find their home. The unknown characteristics and conflicting stories of what lies beyond the Wall serve as an excellent analogy for the unconscious. Jon is warned about the unbearable cold, the savage wildlings, and to most, the mythical White Walkers.
The White Walkers have been gone for thousands of years.
So he was like.
All of these represent different aspects of the unconscious self. Jon courageously and willingly accepts the call to set out into this cold, hostile, and mysterious environment. The harsh conditions characterize the uncomfortable descent into the unconscious. From the illusory safety of what is known, the the mundane, meaningless, and lifeless status quo, into the dark, chaotic, and frightful world of our denied self, which holds an immeasurable treasure when properly integrated. In this hidden world, we encounter a wide range of parts or elements of our suppressed selves. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung called this the shadow, a part of the unconscious containing repressed, denied, or unacknowledged aspects of ourselves, both negative and positive. The wildlings personify precisely this area of the unconscious. They are symbolic of the repressed other, amounting to the shadow on both a personal level in Jon and on a collective scale. They carry everything deemed unacceptable and inferior: raw instincts, aggression, freedom from rules, passion, eros, and authenticity, in stark contrast to the rigid structure found south of the wall, marked by excessive emphasis on duty, laws, honor, and hierarchy.
This isn't the damned Night's Watch where we make you swear off girls.
Jon and the others project the denied and unwanted aspects of themselves onto the wildlings, proclaiming them primitive and dangerous to avoid facing and integrating these parts.
You can't tame a wild thing. You can't trust a wild thing.
As long as they remain unintegrated, they cause internal chaos, which the name wildlings alludes to. It's Jon who starts this integration process, both personally and collectively, as the story's hero.
Father always said I'm of the North.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
I do know some things. I know I love you.
A sequence of events sends him deep into wildling territory, or the shadow psychologically speaking, accompanied by a wildling girl, Ygritte. She represents Jung's anima, the feminine component of the male psyche. The ordering and integration of the anima is a necessary step in the individuation process of a man. The lifelong psychological process of becoming a unique, whole, and integrated self, distinct from family and society. This is most often set in motion when a young man whose psyche is dominated by the overtly masculine encounters a woman who challenges the not yet mature male ego, the delusionally invincible ego that thinks it knows and controls everything.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Ygritte carries so much of what Jon has repressed and denied within himself, deeming it unnecessary and unacceptable. She is instinctual, free-acting, relaxed, and passionate, a welcome contrast to Jon's rigid, stiff, worrisome, and dutiful character. Jon is convinced that as long as he obediently follows the rules and practices handed down to him by his self-contained family and culture, he is good, free, and in the right, ignorant of the flaws in his society and upbringing. Ygritte repeatedly confronts him with this in her joking but direct manner.
Well, you could be free too. You don't need to live your whole life taking commands from old men.
He slowly begins to realize that maybe he doesn't know everything after all, starting with his killing of Cora in Half-Hand, symbolizing him finally letting go of a part of his excessively righteous self he had so desperately clung to. I guess falling in love helps a bit also. His romantic escapades with Ygritte further cement this change, as they directly contradict his sworn oaths to the Night's Watch, leaving us questioning whether what Jon did is right and reconcilable. On one hand, we have love, passion, eros, and fire. On the other, honor, duty, law, and ice, foreshadowing Jon's true heritage. Jon is stuck in this sort of double bind, caught between two archetypal extremes. This is often the case for those navigating the hero's journey. It's precisely this conundrum, this seemingly irresolvable situation, that produces profound change and growth in the hero, as long as they meet it with courage, open arms, and willingness to pursue the truth no matter the cost. Jon eventually does the right thing, as he refuses to partake in the pillaging and killing of the innocent despite it separating him from Ygritte.
I have to go home now.
They were born on the wrong side of the wall. Doesn't make them monsters.
Now back at Castle Black, Jon must navigate the unwarranted hostility from the temporary acting commander Alistair Thorne. He is reproached for his actions beyond the wall, to which he confidently admitted, saved only by the care and the wisdom of Maester Aemon. The Maester is one of the few men not governed by ulterior motives, nor by the disordered collective shadow and its unreasonable hatred for anything or anyone foreign and different. He embodies the archetype of the wise older man, who offers the hero much needed guidance and insight on their journey through the maze of life in the unconscious self. Think of Rafiki from The Lion King, Alfred from the Dark Knight trilogy, or Obi-Wan and Yoda from Star Wars. The sage understands the hero and their motivations, having passed similar trials, granting them invaluable knowledge and experience to impart to those in the midst of their heroic struggle.
It hurts, boy. I know.
Today's culture faces a near extinction of such figures. Few have traversed far enough on their own hero's journey to even be capable of guiding and helping those younger and less experienced. Fathers, mothers, grandparents, teachers, and others have abandoned their role of lighting the way and clearing the path so that the generations that succeed them may mature and attain the necessary goal of self-individuation. Jon has made large strides on this same journey, which is made evident in the new manner in which he speaks of the wildlings. Particularly interesting is that he now calls them the Free Folk, indicating the partial integration of the Shadow.
The Free Folk would have boiled him alive, but letting me kill him.
The Free Folk? Listen to him.
No longer are these parts chaotic drivers of his unconscious. Rather, they have taken on a new, productive, and healthy role in his psyche. Like a dog or bee that turns wild and acts erratically when it's agitated, confined, or its very nature is suppressed, so do the different parts of our psyche turn against us or act uncontrollably, leaving us lost, neurotic, and empty from our constant attempts to subdue our own inner selves. But when we shed light on our shadow, heal, and integrate these forgotten parts, they begin to act freely, taking on new life and aligning with a conscious, rational mind, allowing us to live healthy, normal, and peaceful lives. The integration of the personal shadow often meets strong resistance from the collective and its own shadow, which isn't so easily swayed. In Jon's case, this is made especially difficult with the hostility shown by the wildlings in their village raids and attack on the wall. Similarly to the personal shadow, this reflects the rubber band effect, in which elements of the collective psyche are denied and pushed down too far, acting as if they don't exist or matter, eventually leading to the unrestrained retaliation in the form of wars, unbridled crime, and decadence. The Night's Watch miraculously fends off the wildlings' assault, with Jon losing Ygritte in battle, stunting the full integration of the animal within him.
We'll go back there.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
The unpredictability of reality continues when Stannis Baratheon's army arrives in the nick of time, saving the Night's Watch from certain destruction and the wildlings' infiltration into the north in the Seven Kingdoms. In Freudian terms, the Night's Watch and the Wall in general can be seen as defense mechanisms that the ego, or the conscious level of the psyche, deploys to protect itself from unwanted emotions or urges seeping up from the unconscious. The realm, or everything south of the wall, being the ego, and everything north of the wall is the unconscious or any other real or perceived threat that can disrupt the psyche. The integration of the unconscious into the conscious self is a slow and grueling process and could go awry if the Freudian ego and its defense mechanisms are overwhelmed by the chaos that seeks to consume it. The Night's Watch with a little bit of luck served its purpose, saving the realm in its flimsy current state, at least for now.
Kill the boy, Jon Snow. Winter is almost upon us. Kill the boy, and let the man be born.
Jon has narrowly chosen to assume the role of Lord Commander, now partially transformed into a real man and on his way to completing his hero's journey. Still, there are many battles left to fight before ultimately ascending to a higher state of being and experiencing true inner freedom and peace. The first is right under his nose, namely the collective shadow, which I explained earlier, taking his form in those who reject Jon's pleas to show mercy and allow the helpless free folk passage south of the wall into safety from the White Walkers. The integration of the personal shadow is often met with intense pushback from the collective shadow that caused most of the repressed personal psychological material in the first place. Though Jon has freed the wildlings of his unconscious mind, Alistair Thorne, Janos Slynt, and others, including Oliver, refuse to do the same. Oliver is symbolic of the wounded little boy in Jon who can't bring himself to forgive the pain caused him, hiding behind the guise of honor, justice, and righteous revenge, still holding a firm grip on Jon, stunting his transition from a boy to true manhood. This is further exemplified in Oliver's killing of Ygritte, sabotaging Jon's relationship with a real woman and the anima. Jon needs to let go of all the conflicting emotions, rules, and opinions that cripple his ability to act freely and do what is right. Everything he thought he knew about himself, others, and reality as a whole needs to be laid to waste. Only then can it be rebuilt into something new, something authentic, something real.
You will find the strength to do what needs to be done.
The time has come to let go of all his infantile attachments and obsessions of appearing good to himself and others, and actually begin to be good. This is something else entirely. It means transitioning from a self-conscious, selfish nature to one imbued with compassion, humility, self-sacrifice, and love for others. The clock is ticking though. Winter is coming after all, and if it reaches him unprepared, it will consume him and everyone else. It's death we're talking about. Whether it be the Night King, the White Walkers, or winter itself, all the same. They symbolize the incoming threat of death of not only the physical body, but more importantly of the self, the soul. Death comes for us all. It's inevitable, and it usually arrives sooner than later. This unpleasant truth calls on us to take action and responsibility, to cherish every moment we're given. Every passing day is an opportunity to inch ever closer to discovering the deepest truths and uncovering the most profound mysteries life offers. We are called to act with a sense of urgency. Things don't just magically get better. There won't be some miracle or somebody that will tear us out of our sorry state, fulfill our delusional hopes and wishes, and bring us lasting happiness. What we want or think we need right now is often far from what we receive as a result of an authentic but painful transformation into someone new. What we really yearn for is to live, to feel, to love. But we are so often desperately incapable of fulfilling these desires. Instead, we resemble the whites, animated by the spirit of death. Life is what Jon seeks. He does what he needs to do, despite the immense external pressures of the collective.
It's something I want to do, something I have to do, but it'll divide the Night's Watch.
He stares down death and saves what's left of the free folk. His reward? Betrayal. It's the timeless trope of courageously venturing to the extremes of human pain and suffering, encountering it head-on, resulting in death, only to be followed by a rebirth or resurrection of sorts. The boy has been killed. A new man has been born.
My watch is ended.
A man who seeks the truth and only the truth in all things, regardless of what the consequences may be for him. This is always the result of the proper integration of the shadow. It frees us from our crippling inner fears and anxieties, allowing us to act deliberately and with healthy confidence, incorporating all of the previously repressed, useful fragments of our psyche. But the journey isn't done yet. Jon is yet to defeat archetypal death and bring redemption to the people of the North and Westeros as a whole, liberating it from its own shadow.
I don't care if he's a bastard. Ned Stark's blood runs through his veins. He's my king, from this day until his last day.
In an epic battle, he defeats the usurper Ramsay, who symbolizes the archetypal evil brother, based on their shared status as bastards. Both potentialities lie within each of us. The question is, to which extreme will we gravitate? This victory leads us to the central moment of the story and the hero's journey in general, partly because it was never properly finished, thanks to our dear friends David and Dan, who butchered Jon's arc in the last 2 seasons. In the final episode of Season 6, we see the coming together of all the various aspects and elements that form the world of Westeros. We get a sort of cosmic map of the many different forces at play, contrasting with one another, building up and preparing us for an epic resolution. Daenerys has set sail for Westeros. Winter has come. The tyrannical, power-hungry Cersei has taken the Iron Throne. And Jon, well, Jon isn't really a bastard. Is this surprising revelation and his subsequent proclamation as King of the North that turns the entire story on its head. All the lies, pain, trials, and disappointments that have brought him to this point finally make sense. The journey was never one of outward triumph and heroic demonstration, but a rediscovery of the central truth that lies within each of us. That despite all our flaws, weaknesses, and imperfections, we carry a divine spark, a true self begging to be reclaimed and brought back to life.
It'll make you a Stark with the stroke of a pen. It's the first thing I ever remember wanting.
Jon gets all he ever wanted. He receives the people's recognition. They see him as a Stark, a man of honor, a king.
And I will stand behind Jon Snow. The king in the north!
All of this comes about unexpectedly, far from the way Jon envisioned it in his younger days as part of his illusory hopes and dreams. It's no longer something that he lives for and wants for himself, but a byproduct of his noble deeds and perilous journey that have led him to deeper revelations about himself and reality. The victorious sigh of finally, with an honest awareness of the responsibility it entails. And then we get a massacre of his character, of which I won't waste my words on, as there are already many great videos criticizing the decisions of the final seasons. I'll just say, there was no need to complicate things for the sake of contrived subversion or who knows what. Jon's arc simply should have ended as we all expected, with him defeating the Night King, ascending to the Iron Throne, and bringing peace to Westeros as the rightful king, completing the hero's journey, fulfilling the prophecies, and fully embodying the Redeemer archetype who brings salvation to the realm. On top of that, he should have married Daenerys, or at the very least, there should have been some depiction of the coming together of opposites, ice and fire, the masculine and the feminine, the West and the East into one, encompassing the totality of human existence and reality, breeding a new world filled with virtue, hope, and love. But maybe it's just the hopeful romantic in me that desired such an ending, and maybe Game of Thrones was never meant to materialize into your classic run-of-the-mill triumph of good story. Rather, it was destined for a somewhat unconventional, cynical ending. The issue is we got neither, just some illogical forced slop. Despite the doom and gloom, I must say the final scene has intrigued me quite a bit. There seems to be something esoteric and profound hidden in Jon's journey back beyond the wall. The area that once symbolized his dark and chaotic unconscious no longer frightens him. We see the snow beginning to melt in the beginning of new life. The integration is complete. He has reclaimed his unconscious, his shadow, his soul, his self, who he is, and now he may freely venture where he wills as the rightful king of his own psyche. A rare occurrence in the history of mankind. So few have achieved the simple but seemingly impossible goal of conquering themselves. That is what the hero's journey is about. Facing dragons, mythical creatures, betrayals, wars, and many other great perils, only to find yourself back to where you began. Discovering that what you were looking for all this time was within you all along. So is he a bastard, a Stark, a Targaryen, the king of the free folk, of the north of Westeros? The prince that was promised? It doesn't really matter in the end, does it? He knows who he is. That's all that matters. He is Jon Snow.